Hello, I'm Daz, and this week's discussion is how we live in a self-serving age, an age of self-preservation and disloyalty, and how this ties into scripture. Self-preservation is defined as the protection of oneself from harm or death, especially regarded as a basic instinct in human beings and animals. When we think about self-preservation, it doesn't seem that bad at its core. Looking out for number one, trying to survive, it's part of being alive. When we compare this to Matthew 16:24 through 25, then said Jesus unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, and take up his cross, and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. I can remember reading the scripture and thinking about what it was saying, losing one's life for his sake. What exactly does that mean? As I was reading the scripture again, it made me think of the Christian song Lose This Life by Tate, but it also made me realize that it had a lot to do with self-preservation. When we take up our cross and follow Christ, self-preservation takes a back seat. We no longer are just living to survive. We're no longer just doing what we can to get by. The way of the world is go along to get along. Go with the flow. Do what you can. It doesn't seem like a bad philosophy. I think about many people that I see who I know who, for them, life is just surviving, eating, drinking, doing whatever it is to get by, making a living. And many times there's no more meaning to it than that. When we choose to follow Christ, He may give us tasks that put others before ourselves. We may find ourselves in positions of service rather than being served. We may find ourselves wondering where the next meal is going to come from, where the next check is going to come from, but He tells us to fear not. Don't worry about it. I think about sometimes when we think about people who may have committed a crime. Sometimes they'll say, I was just trying to survive. That's a common phrase that we hear, and it doesn't seem that bad. I think about, too, in this day and age where you combine this idea with people who don't really have a belief system or are apathetic in general toward things. In my generation, I notice this especially when it comes to things like religion. You see it somewhat in politics, although we see a strong polarization. I think about people who really, they don't have a belief. They don't want to be wrong. They say whatever there is, and whatever there isn't, isn't. And I think about if those same people, let's say, were living in a Christian society and that was a norm, then they would behave like what people might think of, or at least espouse those beliefs. But if society were to shift into a different belief system, say atheism, they would then mock or distance themselves. If it were to shift into, say, Satanism, they may go along to the black masses. It just depends on what it shifts to. As long as they're getting a check, as long as they're getting to eat, that's all that matters. And that's what self-preservation teaches. It doesn't really matter what you believe. It doesn't really matter what others believe as long as you are able to survive. And I believe one reason why humans were given a higher level of thinking compared to other creatures or animals is because we were given the gift of being able to make decisions and think on a higher level and have decision-making skills. And when I think about what disloyalty means, according to the dictionary, quality of not being loyal to a person, country, or organization, unfaithfulness, an accusation of disloyalty and betrayal, unfaithfulness, infidelity, inconsistency, faithlessness, fickleness, unreliability. When you think about that, we see much of that. This goes along with the idea of the love of many waxing cold, people not knowing what they stand for anymore. And I think about how easy it sets things up for the age of the Antichrist. I think about how when you take up your cross and you follow Christ, you are giving your life to Him. You have a strong belief. You know what you live for. There's no such thing as inconsistency, fickleness, faithlessness. And self-preservation takes a backseat, and we learn to trust God. We learn to put Christ's needs before our own. It may not be easy, but it's something that if we do, we won't have to worry about surviving because He is always one step ahead. I just wanted to share this message with everyone, and I hope that you enjoyed this lesson as well as this word of encouragement, and that you have a wonderful week. Take care, and God bless.